Hello and welcome to the new season of the Drawn and Redrawn, the Making of India's Internal Boundaries podcast. This is a part of a larger India State Stories project that explores the evolution of India's political and administrative boundaries. This project is an undertaking by the Centre for Legislative Education and Research at Flame University in Pune. In this new season, we embark on a journey through the fascinating histories and narratives of each Indian state and union territories, exploring the pivotal events, influential personalities, and societal transformations that have shaped the subcontinent. This episode explores the legal and historical evolution of India's internal geography, specifically the role of Article 2 and 3 in the creation of new states. This episode is based on a corresponding article written by our team at India State Stories. These articles have been converted to audio conversations with the help of Google's Notebook LM. You can find the relevant article link in the show notes. Now, let's dive into the conversation.
If I showed you a map of India from 1947, and then one from 1956, another from 2000, and then today's, you'd honestly think you were looking at four completely different countries.
Internally, yes, absolutely. Yeah. If you just look at the state borders, it's almost unrecognizable from one era to the next.
We tend to think of maps as these fixed, solid things, Here's Maharashtra, here's Karnataka, they've always been here. But the reality is that the Indian map is less like a photograph and more like a video that's still playing.
That's a great way to put it. It's a story of constant evolution. And we're not just talking about lines on paper here. This is a story about political power, about identity, and a really unique legal framework that makes India very different from other federations.
So today we're doing a deep dive into exactly that, the evolution of Indian states. We're going to look at the machinery under the hood, how a new state is actually made, why they keep splitting, and the history from 1951 to today.
And our mission really is to answer a fundamental question. How is a new state formed in India? And why does that map keep changing?
Plus, we're going to get into a legal reality that I found, kind of shocking. Why Indian states are legally considered destructible while the Union itself is not. But before we get to that legal loophole, we have to set the scene.
The starting point has to be the eve of partition, 1947. And the map wasn't just messy, it was, for lack of a better word, chaos.
Patchwork is the word that always comes to my mind.
It was. When the British left, India inherited this bizarre mix of territories. On one hand, you had the 9 British provinces, places like Bombay, Madras, Bengal. These were areas run directly by the British.
Okay, so that's the British India part we hear about.
Right. But then, scattered all over the place, sometimes right in the middle of those provinces, you had the princely states. And not just a handful.
It was what, over 500?
562 of them.
562, that number is just wild. And we're talking about everything from huge kingdoms like Hyderabad down to tiny estates that were basically a few villages.
Exactly. They were ruled by local princes with treaties with the British. So when India became independent, the huge challenge was stitching all these little scraps into a single country.
Now, this is where I want to pause because I think a lot of us have a misconception here. When these states joined India, was it like the American model, distinct colonies coming together saying, okay, we'll join, but we keep our own sovereignty?
That is the crucial distinction, and the answer is a hard no. In the United States, or even Switzerland, the states or cantons existed as sovereign entities before the Union. They came to the table and bargained.
Right. The United States implies a union of states that already existed.
Precisely. In India, that wasn't the case. The British provinces were centrally run. The princely states, well, they surrendered their sovereignty to India. They didn't come to the negotiating table as equals.
So, unlike the American colonies, the Indian states didn't really have any pre-existing bargaining chips.
Correct. So the Constituent Assembly, the body that wrote the Constitution, was essentially free to draw the map however it wanted. They didn't have to promise the King of Mysore his borders would stay the same forever.
Which explains that famous description of Indian federalism.
Yes. From the States Reorganization Commission report of 1955, it describes India as an indestructible union of destructible states.
Indestructible union of destructible states. That sounds powerful. Almost ominous.
It creates a very strong center. It means the country, the union, cannot be broken. You can't secede. But the states inside it, they can be altered, merged, split, even erased.
Okay, that sets the stage perfectly. We have this huge concentration of power at the center. So let's get practical. If I'm the parliament and I want to create a new state, how do I actually do it? What's the mechanism?
It's on the Constitution, specifically Articles 2 and 3. Article 2 is for admitting new territory, but Article 3, that's the real powerhouse.
Walk us through Article 3.
Article 3 gives Parliament the power to form a new state by, say, separating territory from an existing state, or by uniting two or more states, or even just parts of states. They can increase the area, decrease the area, alter the boundaries.
So it's like political surgery. They can literally amputate a section of a state.
That's a vivid way to put it, but yes. They can also just change the name of any state.
Now, here's the part that I found hard to believe. To do this, to literally redraw the map of your own country, surely you'd need a constitutional amendment, a supermajority or something.
You would think so.
Duh.
In the U.S., you can't change a state's border without that state's legislature saying yes, but in India, no. Under Article 3, it only requires a simple majority in Parliament. It's passed just like an ordinary law.
That seems incredibly easy. But wait, what's the check and balance? Does the state at least get a veto? If Parliament wants to split a state and the state says absolutely not, what happens?
Well, the president has to refer the bill to the affected state's legislature. They get to give their views.
Okay, so they get a say.
They get to voice an opinion. But here's the kicker. Parliament is not bound by those views at all. The state could unanimously reject the proposal, and Parliament can just go ahead and do it anyway.
Wow. So the center really truly holds all the cards.
Think of it like a house renovation. In the American model, the states are co-owners. You can't knock down a wall in their room without permission. In the Indian model, the central government is the architect and the owner. The states are just living there. The architect can move a wall, and the residents don't get a veto.
That's a powerful analogy. Okay, so we have the power in Article 3. We have the mechanism, a simple majority. Let's look at how this played out, because the map didn't just change randomly. There were waves, right?
Absolutely. The first major wave hit in the 1950s.
And right after independence, the leadership, Nehru and Patel, they were actually hesitant to redraw the map, weren't they?
Very hesitant. You have to remember, in the late 40s, early 50s, the priority was survival. The country had just been through the trauma of partition. The fear was that if they started drawing new lines based on language, it might just fracture the country all over again.
But the people on the ground had other ideas.
They certainly did. You started seeing these huge social movements. People wanted to be governed in their own language. A Telugu speaker didn't want to be in a Tamil-administered Madras state.
And this wasn't just a polite request, was it? This got intense.
Incredibly intense. The key figure here is Parishuramulu. In 1952, he went on a hunger strike demanding a separate state for Telugu speakers Andhra. He died after 56 days.
And that triggered massive unrest.
It basically forced the government's hand. In 1953, Andhra State was created. That was the first domino. And once that fell, the floodgates just opened. The government set up the States Reorganization Commission, or SRC, and that led to the States Reorganization Act of 1956.
And this was the big moment, the one that gave us that foundational map of modern India based on language. Kerala for Malayalam speakers, Karnataka for Canada.
Exactly. But there's a huge exception to this one language, one state rule that often gets overlooked.
I was just going to ask about that. If we were splitting everything by language, why is the Hindi heartland so massive? Why do we still have Uttar Pradesh? It's a behemoth.
That's where the politics gets really fascinating. The official reason might be administrative convenience, but you have to look at the power dynamics. Uttar Pradesh is the kingmaker in Indian politics. It sends the most people to parliament.
Right. The path to becoming prime minister usually runs right through UP.
Precisely. So if you're the central government, do you really want to chop up your biggest power base? If you split UP into 4 smaller states, you dilute that huge voting bloc. So while the South and West were reorganized by language, the North remained largely intact for, let's say, strategic political reasons.
So language was the logic for the South? But power was the logic for the North.
In many ways, yes. But the story doesn't stop there. As we move into the 60s and 70s, the logic for creating states shifts again.
And this takes us to the Northeast.
The Northeast was a completely different challenge. This wasn't just about language. It was about distinct tribal identities and a fear of being culturally swallowed up.
Because originally, most of that area was just one giant province called Assam.
Right. And the Naga tribes, for example, felt no connection to the Assamese plains. They were demanding outright independence. So creating Nagaland in 1963 was a way to integrate them politically. It was a kind of peace offering.
And that model was followed for Meghalaya, Mizoram, Arunachal Pradesh. It was about preserving tribal autonomy.
Correct. Now, fast forward to the year 2000, I remember this so clearly. Suddenly, we got 3 new states all at once: Chhattisgarh, Jharkhand, and Uttarakhand.
And this is phase 3, because language wasn't the issue here. People in Bihar and Jharkhand speak the same dialects. Same for MP and Chhattisgarh. So what was the argument?
The argument shifted to development and regional identity. Take Jharkhand. It's incredibly mineral-rich, but was historically very poor. The argument was that the government in Patna, Bihar's capital, was ignoring the needs of the tribal belt in the south.
So it's the neglect argument. We're too far from the capital, you're taking our resources, and we're not seeing the benefit.
Exactly. It was a push to bring administration closer to the people. We saw the same logic with Telangana in 2014, carved out of Andhra Pradesh. They both speak Telugu, but there is this deep sense of economic disparity.
And we can't talk about recent history without mentioning 2019, Jammu and Kashmir.
That was a historic and very controversial pivot. In 2019, after the abrogation of Article 370, the state of Jammu and Kashmir was bifurcated into 2 union territories, J&K and Ladakh.
Which is significant because it's the reverse of the usual process. Usually a union territory graduates to become a state.
It was a demotion in status. A full-fledged state was turned into a territory directly run by the center. It just drives home that point about the destructible state. Even a state with special historical status can be fundamentally changed by parliament.
So we've seen the map fracture from these huge British provinces down to linguistic states and then down again based on development. But if you look closely, this habit of fracturing hasn't stopped. It's just moved down a level to the districts.
Oh, this is the hidden story. We all focus on the 28 states, but the real explosion is happening with districts.
I saw the numbers, and they are just staggering. Between 1951 and 2024, the number of districts in India went up by more than 2.5 times.
And the pace is picking up. Look at Andhra Pradesh. In 2022, in just 1 year, they doubled their districts from 13 to 26.
Doubled in a year. And Rajasthan went from 33 to 50 in 2023. Why? Is this just about making governance better?
Well, the stated reason is always governance. Smaller districts mean the top official, the district collector, is closer to the people. It brings government to your doorstep.
But there has to be a political angle.
No, absolutely. Creating a new district is political gold. It means thousands of new government jobs, new offices, new construction contracts, new police stations. It's a fantastic way for a chief minister to reward a local region and win votes.
But this free-for-all has led to some bizarre disparities.
Bizarre is the right word. The inequality is mind-boggling. Just compare Thane district in Maharashtra with Dibang Valley in Arunachal Pradesh.
Okay, give us the numbers.
Thane's population is over 10 million people. That's bigger than Sweden. Dibang Valley has about 8,000 people.
Wait, 10 million versus 8,000, and they're both technically districts with the same administrative setup.
Roughly, yes. They both have a district magistrate. They're both the primary unit of administration.
That seems completely broken. How can one person effectively administer 10 million people?
They can't. That's the problem. Or look at the physical size. Kutch district in Gujarat is over 45,000 square kilometers. That's larger than Denmark. Compare that to the central district of Delhi, which is just 21 square kilometers.
It's a disparity of epic proportions. It feels like we're just drawing lines without any consistent logic. It's fractal chaos.
It is. The map is a living thing. It reacts to political pressure and social movements, and because the Constitution makes it so easy, that simple majority rule, there's very little friction to stop it.
So let's bring this all together. What's the main takeaway for someone listening to this?
I think the biggest thing is to let go of the idea that a map is a static truth. We all grew up looking at the map on the classroom wall thinking it was permanent. But in India, the map is just a snapshot of the current political consensus.
We went from a patchwork of princely states to a phase of linguistic sorting, then a phase of development-based splitting, and now we're seeing this microfragmentation at the district level.
And through it all, the one constant is the power of the parliament. The indestructible union holds the pen, and the states are the paper it's writing on.
Which brings us to a final question for the future. With districts exploding and regional aspirations always there, what happens next?
That is the big question. If you have a district with 10 million people and another with 8,000, governance just becomes skewed.
Do you think we might need a second states reorganization commission? But this time, for districts.
It's a very real possibility, maybe a comprehensive review of all administrative units, because eventually the administrative logic has to catch up with the political enthusiasm for drawing new lines. You can't just keep splitting things forever without a plan.
It's a fascinating thought. The map you see on your wall today might be a collector's item by 2045.
It very well might be.
Well, that is all the time we have for this deep dive. We hope you look at the map of India a little differently now. Not as ink on paper, but as a story that's still being written.
Thanks for listening, everyone. Keep questioning the map.
See you next time.